Hello, this is Press Play by Evie. Today's topic is letting go of the love or the life you lost to have the life you were supposed to. Many times we cling on to love or life because we have certain expectations of how things are supposed to go. But it takes time and experience for us to realize that there are times when the expectations we have for our lives, while important, some of those expectations were never meant to be met exactly the way that we envisioned them. So I'll give an example. Growing up, I had this expectation of one day having a very close relationship with my father, who left when I was 2 years old. And so I created scenarios in my mind of what that relationship would look like. And for many years, none of that was realized. However, as I became an adult, there were opportunities and openings for us to have a relationship, but it always felt like it was more transactional rather than love based, or coming from a point of wanting to know each other more. But I honestly didn't mind. In my mind, this was a way for us to become closer. And perhaps we would start off in a sort of transactional way and end up having a stronger relationship. And I realized the same with other people in my life. And now when I look back, I realize there are times when I tried to buy people's time or buy people's affection or acceptance. And how I would do this is anytime, for instance, I would call them just to catch up and find out how they were doing. At the end of the call, I would probably say something to the effect, or and I'll send you something. The something that I meant was I will send some money. And this is not because I had that much money. I used to be this way even when I had just gotten my first job, but it was maybe a learned behavior where I had come to assume or believe that the catch up or the conversation I just had with the person on the phone was not enough, or I was not enough, and I needed to supplement that conversation, that catch up, with, in this case, money, or it could be shopping for things that someone might want, or gifts, for me to be enough and for that relationship to be sustained. And I don't think that was anybody's fault, to be honest. And whether they expected that and I was reading into the expectation, or I went ahead of myself, really, at this point, is not an issue for me, but it's taken me several years to look back and be able to distinguish the different kinds of relationships that I've had in my life. Those that I could just freely call to talk about anything and everything. And at the end of the call, that was about it until next time. And there were a handful. And then those that I would feel there was an expectation beyond that interaction. And please, this is not to blame, assign any blame to anyone, not to any person that I had this kind of relationship with, and not to myself. It was just the state of things at the time. But as I have grown and learned to place a lot of value in genuine, sincere relationships, also setting boundaries that are motivated by love and by care and self awareness, and also being able to become more present and more self aware of the kind of relationships that I was cultivating and the kind of expectations I was setting for others and myself. And then, because of those expectations, either ending up being let down or feeling let down when what would have been ideal was clear communication of, is this an expectation that you have? Are we able to have a relationship that can exist without any supplementary actions beyond just genuine, loving conversation, support for one another? Does financial support have to be part of this relationship, that without it, it would not exist? Because I honestly do believe there's value in gifting people and in whatever way you understand the other, yourself and the other person and your situation best. And I think gifting within a relationship is important. It makes sense. And being able to offer support, financial, emotional, spiritual, whatever kind of support is needed, is also part of a healthy relationship, but should not be the only reason for its existence. And this should be clear for all the parties involved, that you do not need to buy my time or my affection or my love. So, the reason I began with that context was to also pose this question to you. What areas of your life have you set certain expectations, whether that was honestly they're real or imagined, and now as you're growing, you realize that they are not sustainable and they are not a good recipe for a healthy relationship. And hence the topic of letting go of the love or life that you have lost to have the life you were supposed to. The other day, I was scrolling through the phone and happened to see a story posted where someone had laid out an amazing birthday buffet and invited guests. The food looked delicious, the drinks seemed to be in plenty, and you could tell this person went all out. But the caption said that nobody showed up. And what was sad was that below the comments overwhelmingly talked about similar situations where people prepared a big feast, a big meal, wanted to celebrate a milestone in their lives. But when they invited the people who they thought were closest to them, no one showed up. And I think that's how, or that triggered something in me, because I was able to see situations in life where I expected people to show up one way for me, but they did not. And the problem with that is because I may have misread what our relationship was. I may have misunderstood our closeness or the value that I have in their lives or the value that they place in me. And please recognize that you are valuable regardless of any situation, any person. Just as you are, having done nothing at all, you are a worthy person, a person of value. That's why you're here, that's why you exist. However, you have to be very genuine, sincere, and open with yourself to see, do the people around you truly value you? Are the environments that you've placed yourself in places that value who you are? Or did you over did you assume that you had value in these people's lives, yet you don't? Did you overthink this relationship? Perhaps they just, if it's a workplace, they just think of you as a colleague, an associate, and that's about it. And the only common thread between you is the fact that you have similar roles, work in the same department or work in the same company. So you might meet up during lunch break and have stories to share, a laugh here and there. But without that environment that you're both currently in, your relationship would not survive. Or if you think about it, when you went to school, whether it was primary school, high school, university, there are people you may have had, let me say, a lot of friends. But once you were past that stage, there is a chance that you realized the many friends weren't really friends, but rather associates, fellow students whom you had a relationship because you were going through a similar experience, which was you were going to the same school, you were taking maybe some of the same classes, you had some of the same challenges because you were in the same age group. So there was a lot in common at that point, but those things were not soul deep, such that after you left that phase and moved on or graduated to the next phase of your life, that relationship could not really survive outside of that environment. And perhaps out of the many friends, but maybe you would say I had 20 really good friends. Once you were past that phase, you realized Maybe they were just two, if you're lucky, because some might realize they had none at all. They're just two. And there's nothing wrong with associates because you need them. The people it's who help you build a sense of camaraderie and fellowshipping together through what it is that you are doing and the phase of life you're currently at. Very valuable, very very important. And in future, they also form a network base. They are a network for you and you are a network for them. Because if you meet them, say at the workplace and you need something done, if you had a cordial relationship and at least the person liked you and respected you, they might put in a good word for you. And the same for you. You may put in a good word for someone because you remember them and your experience with them was good. And perhaps you can vouch for them and say, I know this guy, they're very capable, they are genuine, at least from my experience with them, and they were very hardworking. But that aside, there is need, and then there are those who just were completely putting on an act. They had zero interest in you. They did not like you, but to your face, you may not have, especially if at the time you were not very discerning, it may not have been obvious that they did not like you like that, like the way you thought that they did. And that's where a situation can come up and it shocks you that, oh, you mean we weren't that close? You mean they didn't like me the way I liked them? Or they didn't respect me or appreciate me in the same way that I did? Did I place so much value in our relationship which they did not feel was worth the time or the effort? And the same goes for whether it's a workplace, a school setting, even the neighborhood you grew up in or the town you grew up in, the people we called family friends, perhaps our parents or friends, our grandparents or friends. And so by default, we sort of also became their friends. And that also extends to family and whether they're the nuclear family or extended. That perhaps we grew up in the same household, so we believed that there was such a strong bond, and perhaps it did exist, but as we continued to grow older, these bonds went through different tests and they were no longer as strong. Our values perhaps began to differ, and therefore, we, in a sense, were going separate ways. And the only thread that was linking us is whatever that relationship was, that of a relative, a family member, a friend. And sometimes that thread was or is so thin that it cannot sustain that relationship anymore. And I believe that when you find yourself at this juncture, you have to let go of that love or that life that you expected, that you had dreamed and envisioned with this person or people in it. Consider it lost, not from a point of pain. Appreciate the experiences you had with that person, those people, that environment. Then let go of it so that you can have the life that you are supposed to. The new life that is now in your present, your today, your right now. And anytime you are beginning a new phase of life, because there will always be phases of your life, as you grow mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, not everyone can come with you on that journey. Some will drop off, and that is okay. Because, in the same way, you are not able to go with everybody on their journey or all phases. Perhaps your connection was for a season. Thank God for the experience you had together. Thank God for what you learned. Some experiences were better than others. But now that you have moved, there are those that you will move with, and there are those that you'll have to let go. And in some cases, letting go can be very easy and straightforward, and in some, it can be very stressful and heartbreaking, but nonetheless necessary. And letting go is crucial and valuable for you and the other person, because prolonging that tie or that link is not doing any of you any favors, and could actually lead to a disintegration of any love, like, or good feelings that existed. And it is okay for you to root from someone from a distance and for them to root for you from a distance. But just consider that as a phase that you have gone past, and let it go with a lot of love and a lot of gratitude. So, friends, let go of the love and the life you lost to have the life you were supposed to. Some people will come at you in a very volatile manner, but in some cases, it's subtle, quiet. Whatever the case, let it go. It's okay. Let it go with love, let it go with gratitude, and move on so that the life you're supposed to live and lead in this next chapter and new phase can truly be realized without painful entanglement, and so that space is created for you to be able to truly thrive with the new experiences and the new relationships. And even if there's some of the old relationships that still came with you to this new chapter, because some that will still be necessary to continue once you've really soul searched. They may not be exactly the same in the new chapter. They will be renewed, realigned to be able to fit. Because if they can't renew and realign, chances are they will drop off. And since you were going to have to do it eventually, might as well do it sooner when there's less struggle and pain experienced from both ends. But regardless, whatever or whenever you manage to do it, give yourself grace and give the others grace, and applaud yourself for having the strength and the courage that it took to be able to choose yourself and allow the new phase. And also for those who let go of you, because there are times where it's the other way, applaud them for choosing themselves, and recognize by accepting their decision to let go of you, you are also highly choosing yourself and recognizing that that might have been the end of the season where the two of you have a close relationship. This relationship may come back around later in a different way or form, or not at all, but just stay open. So I look forward to all your comments, your stories of how you've experienced this or seen others, and whether you were the one who was the initiator, you were letting go of someone or something in your life, or someone was letting go of you or a situation you were both in. Please do share your stories, share what were your feelings, how did you overcome, and also tips on how to do this and how to choose yourself, because it's always for your highest benefit and the highest benefit of those around you. As always, thank you so much for your time. So let go of the love and the life you lost to have the life you're supposed to. Have a good day.